Her scream tore the night apart. It was raw, piercing, nothing like the sounds of the savannah. Not the deep growl of lions, not the mocking laughter of hyenas. This was human, fragile, desperate, filled with both pain and hope. Under the canopy of a wide acacia tree, a fire flickered against the darkness. Its orange glow painted the earth in trembling shadows. Around it, women knelt, their hands pressed to the body of a young mother. Sweat ran down her temples, her body convulsing with each wave of agony. She gritted her teeth, voice breaking into another scream as her belly tightened. Naya, the healer, crouched at her side. Her face was calm, though her eyes held the sharpness of someone who had walked this edge too many times before. Around her neck hung a necklace of bone and beads, tokens from lives she had saved and from those she had lost. In her hands, she held knowledge older than memory, where to press, when to turn, which herbs might dull pain or coax life forward. The women murmured chants, voices low, rhythmic. They were not prayers. Gods did not yet exist by name, but sounds of breath and memory, a rhythm that stretched back to mothers before them. The chants were comfort, a thread of hope against the silence of death that too often followed. The men stood apart, beyond the fire's light, restless. They shifted their weight, spears in hand though they were useless here. Against lions, they could fight. Against hunger, they could endure. But this battle of blood and breath was one they could not enter. Their faces flickered in half-light, helpless. The mother's cry split again, louder this time, echoing across the savannah. For a moment, everything seemed to still. The insects, the fire, the very air. Would this new life emerge? Or would the earth take another mother, another child, into its silence? The pains came like waves rising, cresting, breaking, then pulling the young mother back into a narrow place between breath and darkness. Naya counted them without numbers, measuring time the way her mother taught her, by the rhythm of the body, by the distance between a cry and the next one. The intervals had shortened. The child pressed lower. The mother's hands clawed at the earth, fingers black with soil, as if she might hold herself to the world by digging into it. Breathe, Naya murmured, not as a command but as a memory. Breathe here. She pressed a warm palm to the mother's back, another below the swollen belly, and nodded to the older woman at the mother's shoulders. Together they shifted her knees wide, weight forward, spine long. The old woman's voice held the chant steady, a thread pulled taut across the storm. From a shallow bowl near the fire, Naya took a smear of crushed leaves and damp bark bitter as smoke on the tongue. She lifted it to the mother's lips. The mother grimaced, swallowed, coughed. The healer's eyes never left her face. Good, she whispered. Hold here. She set a small stone warmed in the coals against the mother's lower back, easing it carefully along flesh already flushed with heat. The skin jumped, then softened under her hand. Another contraction seized the mother, hard as a knot of bone. The cry that came out was not clean. It broke into pieces in her throat. Naya leaned in, fingers splayed across taut skin, feeling for the turn she feared. A wrong angle could mean blood that would not stop, a head that would not pass, a silence that would fold the camp into mourning. The fire spat, Sparks climbed and vanished. Again, Naya said to the others. They shifted the mother onto her side, then into a squat that let the earth take some of her weight. The old woman braced the mother from behind, a living pillar, thighs trembling with effort. Another helper held the mother's hands, pressing their foreheads together, letting breath become shared breath. The chant deepened. No words now, just a rolling note, low and steady, the sound of a river in a cave. The men at the edge of the firelight fell quiet. One of them, Aru, too young yet to understand patience, took a step forward and then caught Koro's gaze. The elder did not shake his head. He did not need to. Aru stilled. He looked up at the stars through the acacia's fingers and tried to make meaning of their cold light. Somewhere, a hyena called. Another answered. Farther off, elephants moved like slow thunder. Naya cleaned her hands in ash, then wiped them on a scrap of hide. Ash bit grease and blood. It made the grip firmer, the touch more sure. She reached for a thin strip of sinew and a tiny shard of flint tools, not for cutting life, but for cutting through fear. She did not need them yet, and prayed she would not. She set them within reach anyway, the way a hunter lays a spear near sleep. Listen, she told the mother, voice calm as water. When the next wave comes, push your breath down. Do not fight it, follow it. She placed her ear against the mother's belly, not to hear a heartbeat that mystery lived to deep, but to feel the direction of force, the coil and release. The skin there was tight as a drum. When the contraction hit, Naya felt the shift, a small one, but real, the head finding a truer path. Good, Naya said, and a grain of fear fell from her chest to the ground. She smeared more of the bitter paste along the mother's gums and temples, then touched a smoky resin beneath the nostrils. The smell was sharp, like rain burning in air before it falls. The mother's eyes flicked to hers. Naya held them, steady as a stake in earth. The next wave took the mother like a river taking a branch hard and turning. She groaned low, deeper now. The sound pulled from a place beyond language. Naya felt the change, pressure broadening, skin beginning to stretch in a way that spoke of imminence and risk. She nodded to the women. Ready your hands, she said softly. We catch. They banked the fire, feeding it smaller sticks so its light would hold but not scorch. Shadows tightened, then softened again as the flame found new breath. A wind moved through the acacia, leaves gossiping quietly over the labor below. The mother's thighs shook. Sweat slid along her ribs and fell to the earth like little stars. Another contraction, another push. Blood came bright at first, then darker, and Naya's chest tightened. She pressed warm cloth hide soaked in herb water against the swelling that crowned, spoke low to the mother, met her eyes again. You are strong, she said, not as praise, but as fact. You are the path. Follow your breath. Aru had stopped watching the sky. He watched Naya instead, the way her hands moved with certainty that made fear look small. He traced her motions in his mind like lines in the dirt. The way she braced, the way she waited, the way she did nothing at all when nothing was needed. He did not have words for it, but somewhere within him, a seed took light. Knowledge could be carried like fire. The mother's groan broke into a cry that rose and rose until it trembled the fire itself. Naya felt the give the living edge of the world stretching under her palm. Now she breathed. Now the old woman behind the mother tightened her arms. The helper pressed her forehead to the mother's, both of them shaking, both of them singing without songs. The head began to crown. Naya's hands, firm and gentle, cupped the emerging shape. She did not pull. She did not hurry. Between waves, she whispered silence, letting the earth and the mother decide timing together. She glanced at the bowl of ash and leaves, at the warmed stones, at the sinew and flint that she hoped would remain untouched. Then she returned to the only world that mattered, the mother's breath, the child's slow rival, the thin red line between life and losing. Another wave, another push. The skin there shone, tight as wet clay under sun. Naya spread oil, animal fat softened by heat, along the edge where flesh met fate. Breathe down, she said. Shh, follow it. The mother snarled the air through her teeth and bore down, not against pain, but with it, riding it like a river bends to rock. The head slipped free into Naya's hands. She turned it gently, feeling the shoulders find their place. The mother's body trembled with effort beyond effort. The chant around them fell to a hush so thin it was barely sound. Then, with a last coil of force and a sound that was half groan, half prayer, the child slid into the world. Slick and small and astonishingly heavy in the healer's palms. Silence held, complete and terrible. Naya wiped the child's mouth with the edge of her wrist, cleared the nose with a swift stroke, then rubbed the small chest with ash-warmed hands. She lifted the tiny body just enough for breath to find it. Come. She whispered to a life that had no words. Come. The air waited, and then, very small, very fierce, a cry. It cut through the night like fire catching dry grass. The women laughed through tears. The mother collapsed against the old woman's chest, shaking with relief. At the edge of the light, the men exhaled as Wanaru's knees softened, Koro's jaw eased. The acacia leaves answered with a hush like rain. The fire, as if proud, lifted its flame a little higher. Naya laid the child upon the mother's belly. The tiny mouth, searching without learning, found skin and began the ancient work of survival. Blood and vernix and ash marked all their hands. Naya tied the cord with sinew, cut it with flint quick, clean. Careful then set the blade aside as though it, too, were a living thing that had done a hard task well. Stay, she said to the mother. Hold! She pressed a hand to the womb, felt it tighten as it should. She listened to the mother's breath steady, to the infant's small swallowing, to the world relearning itself in the space of a single cry. Around them, the night was the same, but everything had changed. The cry lingered in the air long after the child's small lungs had grown tired. For a moment the world seemed to lean in to listen. Then the sound softened into snuffling and wet. Breathy whimpers as the newborn searched blindly against its mother's chest. The mother, half collapsed against the old woman's embrace, let her head fall back. Her eyes closed, mouth slack, her body limp with exhaustion. She looked for an instant as though she, too, might slip away into the dark. But Naya's hands did not stop. She pressed firmly against the mother's belly, feeling the womb contract and shift. Her other hand braced with cloth and ash to catch what still must come. The afterbirth, heavy and slick, slipped free into her waiting palms. She set it aside on a flat stone near the fire, covering it quickly with leaves and soil. This too was life and death and memory. The cord was tied and cut, but Naya examined both ends with careful eyes. Infection, unseen, could steal a mother in days. She pressed ash into the wound, then smeared it with resin that sealed and burned at once. The mother hissed, eyes flicking open at the sting, then eased again when the pain receded. The child pressed a tiny mouth to skin, rooting instinctively. Its lips closed, opened, closed again. At last, it latched, and the sound that followed the soft rhythm of suckling was quieter than any chant, but infinitely more powerful. The women's voices faded altogether. They smiled, faint lines breaking through faces that had weathered storms and hunger. The old woman, her arms still bracing the mother, murmured a wordless hum. It was not song and not prayer, but memory, a tune sung at other births, other nights, carrying fragments of lives gone, but not forgotten. At the edge of the firelight, the men lowered their spears. Some exhaled deeply, others turned their eyes away, embarrassed by the intimacy of what they had witnessed. Koro, the elder, remained still. Only his face softened the deep scar along his cheek shadowed in flicker. His gaze fixed on the small, fragile creature pressed against its mother. Aru whispered something to himself. Perhaps a word, perhaps only breath. His eyes had not left Naya's hands, the way she moved between blood and fire with certainty. He saw in her not weakness, as many men did, but strength equal to the hunt. A seed took root in him, that stories worth telling might not always be about the chase or the kill, but about what was kept alive when everything else threatened to die. The night grew quieter. The wind shifted, carrying away the scent of blood. Somewhere a hyena called again, but farther now. The fire whispered, wood splitting softly. Naya lifted the newborn, now its skin smeared with vernix and ash. She pressed her forehead to the child's briefly before returning it to its mother. She placed the afterbirth deeper into the earth, covering it with soil and stones so scavengers would not find it. She whispered low as she did so, not words, but rhythm, the way all healers had. Life had entered, life had left. The balance was kept. The mother opened her eyes again. They were weary, but no longer vacant. She stroked the small head at her breast, her thumb tracing over damp hair that glistened in the firelight. Tears slipped down her cheeks, tears of pain, of relief, of survival. The child stirred, gave a small mew, and drank again. The sound was fragile, ordinary, eternal. The band of 11 souls leaned closer to the fire, not daring to disturb the new pair, but unable to turn away. For them, this was not merely a child. It was the future, wrapped in weakness and hope. That night, under the acacia tree, with predators circling the dark and the stars unblinking overhead, the tribe endured not by spear, not by fire, but by the fragile bond between a mother and her child. The fire burned lower now, its flame soft, its light steady. Around it, the tribe settled into silence. The young mother cradled her child, her eyes half shut, but unwilling to surrender to sleep. Naya sat nearby, her hands still streaked with ash and blood, her gaze fixed on both mother and newborn as though watching not only for danger, but for proof that the fragile spark they had fought for was truly here, truly alive. The night stretched wide. Beyond the fire, the grass swayed in the wind, carrying the sense of blood and smoke into darkness. Predators moved their silent, unseen but did not approach. Perhaps it was the fire. Perhaps it was chance. Perhaps it was something else. The child stirred. A sound rose small, uncertain, then steady. Not the sharp cry of birth this time, but a softer murmur. It was a voice weak, fragile, but a voice nonetheless. The women smiled. Koro leaned forward slightly, as though the sound pulled him closer despite himself. Ara whispered again, but no one heard the words. The sound of that infant, pressed to its mother's chest, carried across the fire, across the tribe, across the night. It was the same sound that had echoed in camps for tens of thousands of years before, and would echo in homes for tens of thousands of years to come. A child's cry, a child's voice, the sound of humanity itself. And though the tribe did not yet know it, though they lived without words for future or destiny, though they struggled each day against hunger and fear, the echo of that voice was a promise that even in the face of predators and storms, even in the shadow of death, life would go on. That cry was not only the survival of one child, it was the survival of us all. That cry, born in firelight beneath the stars, is the same cry we hear today. Across 100,000 years, it has not changed. It is the voice that binds us, the first cry of life, the first promise of survival, the first song of humanity. Thank you for watching this journey into the lives of our earliest ancestors. If this story moved you, and you want to continue exploring the hidden voices of humanity's past, please support us by subscribing. Your support helps bring more forgotten stories back to life. Don't forget to like and share if you enjoyed this episode, and join us next time as we uncover another chapter of the world before time.